Joe and Joe, Joe Basillo and Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, Sunday night at a little after 8 o'clock because of technical difficulties, let us all go into the breach. And we thank you all again for joining us, for supporting us. You support us with your viewership and you're sharing our videos. We do have our GoFundMe campaign going on GoFundMe. It's Support the Frontline with Joe and Joe. We appreciate the money that many of you have dropped in there. Follow us, please, on Facebook. Share our videos. Tell your friends about them. Comment on them. Like the videos. And on YouTube, please, like our videos. Subscribe to our channel, The Frontline with Joe and Joe, and hit the little bell. This way, you get notified of everything that we put up there. Like today, we did an interview with Ernie Nuzzo, and it's titled Setting the Record Straight on Columbus. And it was a good conversation. It's about an hour long, and it just debunks it because there's a lot to get into. But it really gives a good overview about why, in this case of Columbus, we shouldn't let the radicals, the nihilists, the leftists all try to tear down everyone and everything, including Christopher Columbus. So it's an interview that we think you'll enjoy. So tonight we have a great show for you. Not a lot of topics, but meaty. Wouldn't you say?
I'd say
meaty. So. First and foremost is that the Democrat National Convention was a circus. All right? Circus with a capital C. All right, these people are insane. That's the only way you can put it. Then later on, we're going to talk about the Democrats with this whole mailbox conspiracy confiscation thing, whatever it is. It's all been debunked, and the Postmaster General basically eviscerated the Democrats. And then we give a couple of examples, like Patterson, New Jersey, very close to us. Okay, Donald Trump mentioned Patterson, New Jersey. He said in the Rose Garden, or I think it was the Rose Garden, he goes, look at what happened in Patterson, New Jersey. You know, so Patterson, New Jersey, out in Nevada, this mail-in ballot is just a means by which the Democrats are going to cheat. So we're going to get into that a little bit. And also, sorry, conservatives, boycotts work. Boycotts work. And you know why they work? Because there was a call for the boycott of Goodyear this week. And you know what happened? Goodyear came to its senses, even if not completely, just from a business point of view, and they retracted what they had said. We'll get into all the details there. So having said that, I'm going to hand it over to Joe Resinello, and we're gonna start mixing it up a little bit at the front line.
Sadly, we have to begin with the DNC convention. I say sadly. So let me just give a little intro into the discussion, and then we'll just take it from there.
You used the right word, by the way. Okay, Joe used the right word, sadly. But you know what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to turn a new leaf. I'm trying to not get as angry. Don't get mad at me, okay? I'm trying to not get as angry. I'm trying to laugh at certain things. Now, I'll be crying, not literally, on November 4th if Biden gets elected. But between now and then, I'm trying to take this stuff, and I'm trying to laugh my ass off. So go ahead, Joe.
The Democrats wrapped up their party's convention having officially coronated former Vice President Joe Biden as their 2020 presidential nominee, with California Senator, Kamala? Is that the new way to say it?
It's Kamala.
Kamala.
Because you can't say Kamala, you can't say Kamala. We went into it last week, or else you're a racist.
Right.
Which we're racist anyway, I guess, according to the left, in their eyes. But it's Kamala.
Kamala Harris. Riding on the ticket months after she ambushed Biden, calling him a racist. After nominated the farthest left presidential ticket in history with more than a $10 trillion platform spearheading the left's 21st century woke revolution, the Democrats have roughly 2.5 months to make their case to the nation before Judgment Day, which is November 3rd. Let's sum it up. The DNC convention spent 4 days featuring 8 hours of an Orange Man Bad infomercial in prime time. If this is any preview ahead, the Democrats are pinning their message on pursuing the total transformation of American society into an exhaustively woke socialist utopia with faux moderate Biden as their Trojan horse.
Faux moderate.
The DNC convention was a circus, but a boring one at that. While the 4 nights of primetime coverage featured Bill Clinton as the party's moral compass, John Kerry as a legendary Middle East peacemaker, and Governor Andrew Cuomo as the coronavirus miracle worker.
I'm sorry. How do you not laugh at that? Bill Clinton is the moral compass of the Democrat Party. Can't vote. We gotta have character in the White House. Character? You were a character. You don't have character, but you were a character in the Oval Office. You did things that Donald Trump never dreamed of doing in the Oval Office. If anything, he did it in his prior life. Bill Clinton waited to get into the Oval Office so that he can have his way in there. So having him talk about character, what's the other one? Kerry? Kerry on how to negotiate deals? Yeah, how'd that Iran deal go? 150 billion.
In cash.
I wish somebody would give me 1/10 of 1% of that in cash. And who else did they feature in that particular? Oh, Andrew Cuomo. Old people, dead old people in New York.
40%, I think.
Okay, 40% of the death toll in New York was because of Andrew Cuomo's malfeasance and his stupidity as governor, his mismanagement as governor. Let's not say he did it deliberate, but don't hold him up as being the paragon of let's say leaders that were supposed to, or this is the way it's done when it comes to coronavirus.
So let's look at some of the more notable moments. You had the convention included Elizabeth Warren on an American Indian panel.
You can't make that up.
By the way, the American Indians refuted that.
Right. They're like, what's she doing up there?
It's just absurd.
Well, you know, my poopa, remember what she said? That was it, poopa, peepoo? I'm not making fun of Native American. I'm making fun of her. Like she said, my poopa said that was my grandma, and she had high cheekbones. Okay, I guess that proves that you're Native American because you had high cheekbones. In the meantime, it was found out Donald Trump's got more Native American blood in him than Elizabeth Warren has in her.
The DNC removed God from the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, there's a shock.
During the Muslim Delegates Assembly, the party superdelegate A.J. Durrani led the Pledge of Allegiance and skipped over under God. This is exactly what he said. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Forgot the under God part.
I guess the under God part just isn't part of what's important to the Democrats.
Well,
and it was left out.
It was left out because it's going to cheese off the base. See, there are no moderates in the Democrat Party. The ones who are a bit more politically savvy. See, what they should do is they should grab the leaders of BLM and Antifa and the rest of the radical groups. They should bring them in the back room and they should listen. Now, I'm giving them advice. I don't want them to win, but this is what I would do if I was Tom Perez. You get them in the back room. You could give them some cigars and some Grey Goose because that's what they have when they go back there. All right, Antifa and the rest of them, they'll indulge. And what Tom Perez should tell them, he said, shut your mouth. Let us just run this convention and get up on election day and go vote for Biden and you'll get what you want. But in the meantime, we need to do what we need to do to win. So don't tell us to take under God out of the Pledge of Allegiance because that's gonna cheese off a lot of people that we need to vote for.
They just don't get it.
Well, you see what I'm saying to you?
They don't get it.
If you were a bit more politically savvy, you would turn around and you would tell these groups, go to your people and tell them, we're just going to come across as moderate as we can be. Then when we get in there, you guys are going to have a place at the table. But shut your mouth between now and then and let us try to get elected. It's their mistake. And by the way, I'm glad they're making it. I'm glad they're making that mistake.
LGBT activist Jay May says party needs to get behind abolishing the police, ICE, and prisons. A youth activist stated, we want the destruction of capitalism, and I quote, we understand that this future that we all want, that we're all trying to build, really is about the destruction of colonization, white supremacy, and capitalism. This was stated by Ashley Nicole McCrae, who ran unsuccessfully for local office in Oklahoma 2 years ago.
That means that if you woke up tomorrow and you said, you know something, I'm going to go out and take some cash, I'm going to go get the rest from the bank, and I'm going to open a business. A pizzeria. We're Italian guys, right? What do Italian guys do? They go into the pizza business.
I like calzones.
I love calzones. Okay. You go into the pizza business and you say, I'm going to invest my money and my time. I'm going to rent a space and I'm going to make the best freaking pizza in North Jersey. Okay. That makes you an entrepreneur. That makes you a capitalist. Okay. Because you're not doing it for goodwill. You're doing it for a profit. You don't want to work in your normal job. You want to own your own business and you're trying to make whatever you can selling pizzas and calzones in North Jersey. That makes you a white supremacist and a colonialist. But I just want to make pizzas and make my living that way. Nope. You're a racist. You're a white supremacist. Because why on earth would you throw capital? Now, look, I got a lot of problems with our current capitalist system. By the way, we have a great interview up that we did yesterday with John Horvat talking about a lot of this.
Yes.
Talking about a lot of I hate to use this word, but we use it appropriately. A lot of the systemic problems that we have, particularly with bailouts and cheap money. I'm not talking about that version of capitalism. I'm talking about real free enterprise, as I just described. small businesses, mid-sized businesses. You take a risk, you make some money, you provide for your family. Whatever. That's colonialist, that's racist, and you're a white supremacist, Joe Resinello, all because you want to make a pizza and a calzone better than the guy down the block.
Bad.
You're just a bad person. No, but here's the thing. Let's just highlight it with like one or two things. Michael's with us. Michael Underwood. My first elect. Now, all you at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello. We're on Facebook right now. We're on YouTube. We're on about 10, 12 other platforms. Also, thanks to Jonathan Ross up at HolyFaith Media, who loves us and we love him. Michael Underwood says, my first election is coming up. My response. Now, this is a first election for Michael. My response after seeing the DNC convention, time to vote for Trump. He's not alone. He is not alone. Now, there's not just people that are first-time voters like Michael. Okay, there's a lot of people in the middle that we've spoken about before. All right, and before we get off this topic, remind me, I want to talk about the Democrats for life. But having said that, Michael's attitude is what we've been saying. It's not because they love Donald Trump. It's not because we love Donald Trump. I like the job he did. Okay, I like his hair. I love his hair. I love the judges, most of them anyway. Okay, I like what he did on taxes and regulation and China and trade and wages and all of that. Okay, I don't love Donald Trump. I respect Donald Trump. I think he's a pragmatic politician. But here's the thing. Not loving him, even if I was like a little like this, but I could look at what he's done and say, well, a lot of that's not been so bad. And then I juxtapose that with these people, I'm like, it's just like the title of this video. It's a circus, man. And that circus is going to occupy the White House. So when they talk about people, oh, can you imagine if Sarah Palin has her finger on the nuclear bomb, or if Donald Trump has his finger on the nuclear bomb? Take any one of these characters. Sarah Palin, in other words, because she's the heartbeat away from the presidency. Sarah Palin, Donald Trump, all right, Mitt Romney, vastly more qualified to have their finger near that bomb, okay, than these jokers. And that's what they are, jokers.
Well, also, I have to, last insane moment, squad member Ayanna Pressley celebrates the courage of the Portland rioters. As we all know, they're destroying the city, and they did not mention that once. 30 people have died thus far since George Floyd's murder.
Right.
Just so you know, they did not mention that once. Cities are a mess.
Right.
New York City being one of them, where we live.
New York City is the numbers. See, they always talk about numbers and science and statistics and everything else. The numbers don't lie. People are getting shot and killed. Not just shot and killed in New York City. Okay. Now, again, it's the outer boroughs mostly. Okay. It's uptown if you're talking about Manhattan, but nonetheless, law and order has broken down in New York City. I work with people, I've told you this, I work with people who are not Republicans. They are not conservative on moral issues that are of concern to us, like abortion and gay marriage and things like that. And they look at me and say, Joe, I'm voting for Trump. And they hate the fact that they have to wait until the end of next year to vote de Blasio out, or that his term comes to an end. No, even they see it because, again, their lives are being ruined. And so not just on the financial end because of COVID, but this lawlessness that's being promoted by city. How do you run a city like New York, the largest city in the world, and you're promoting lawlessness? How do you do that? And then Cuomo goes on TV and he begs the 500,000 people that left, come back. You know what they're going? No. They're like this. No, Andrew. See, I'm in Jersey, man. I'm in Connecticut. I'm up in Westchester. I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back, and it's your fault.
Did you hear? I heard this today. Did you hear that the mayor of Chicago, she got, I guess, some death threats? She has police guarding her house, and this is what she had the nerve to say. She said she's lesbian. She's married. Well, she's with a woman, obviously. And she says, I have a right to protect my wife. I have a right to protect my property. Well, so does everybody else.
So does everybody else.
I mean, sometimes I actually sit back and hear statements like this by some of these politicians that are destroying their cities, and I just say to myself, you just don't get it. You don't get it at all. And yet, we as people, citizens, vote them in.
That's right.
I say we vote them all out.
I think a lot of times, obviously, it comes down to ideology. That's why a lot of people vote the way they do. Not just Democrats, Republicans too. All right. Tony's with us. Hey, Tony. What's
Tony,
going on?
by the way, Michael Brown novel, Father Elijah, cranking book. I agree. It is like that book. And Barack Obama, when you read it, all I think about is him when I read that, when I've read that book.
Barack Obama. We'll talk about him, too. We're going to talk about him a little bit. All right. So HolyFaith Media, our boy, he says if Trump puts it, now he's up in Canada. He said if Trump puts one more tariff on Canadian aluminum, we're going to break up, fellas. You're not going anywhere. Somebody better tell HolyFaith Media, Jonathan, you're stuck like Chuck, pal. You're our producer, and just get used to it. And he also said, but here's a serious question. Saw one election model, the guy who goes on Fox and is called the last 24 of 26 elections. He thinks Trump takes New York. Thoughts, guys? Here's our thoughts. I would say no. I think New York is just way too blue.
I think he could maybe take New Jersey.
That's what I was going to say. Now, again, leaving aside what your view is of vaccines, I'm not getting into that. We're not getting into that tonight. If there's a vaccine before November 3rd, I would say Trump might be able to take New York. Okay. And another interesting thing, too. A lot of people in New York won't vote Republican because they're not going to vote for a pro-life candidate. They're not going to vote for a candidate who does anything to stop abortion. Okay. But a lot of New Yorkers do vote on LGBT issues. And we were talking before the show. Donald Trump has done nothing to that community. He has done nothing to adversely affect that community at all. They have actually no gripe with him. They make more money than everybody else. And because of Trump, they're able to keep more of their money than they were under Obama. And it's very possible that that community, that specific community, if in fact there was a vaccine, just throwing it out there, might turn around and say, Trump didn't do anything to me. I'm going to go vote for him. I could see that. I'm not saying it will happen. I can see that. As far as Joe's point about New Jersey, I think we said that like over a month ago. If there's a vaccine, Trump takes New Jersey. If Chris Christie could get elected governor in a pro-choice state, a pro-abortion state, and Chris Christie, to his credit, was out. He did take the position that he was pro-life. Okay, if he could get elected in this state, Donald Trump can too. But it would take something major, I think, to answer Jonathan's question. I think it would take something major like a vaccine.
Another observation from the committee, outside of the fact, the convention rather, outside of the fact that it was a circus. The convention kicked off with the official theme of unity, but it focused primarily on basically a divisive party talking point, dominated mostly by race. Several segments of the DNC's first convention night focused on racial strife and division, a theme pushed by the Democrats in the wake of George Floyd's murder on May 25th, which spurred riots, obviously, across the country. This is just one statement. This is the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser. This is what she had to say, with the backdrop of Black Lives Matter Plaza, as she said it. She basically said she touted the false peace protesters. This is a talking point of the DNC, sadly. They're peaceful. Meanwhile, like I said, 30 people have been killed since May 25th, and invoked her 2-year-old daughter, explaining that she wanted her to grow up in an America where the president doesn't fan the flames of racism and looks out for all of us. And this is what else she had to say. She said, "We can't just paint these words referring to Black Lives Matter behind me. We can't just say those words. We have to live those words. We have to undo the laws and systems that have codified racism for far too long, urging everyone to challenge our own biases." Now,
doesn't she need to take her own advice as a Democrat,
I would say this is the part that I find to be just unbelievable. Doesn't fan the flames of racism. That's all that they have done.
Right.
That's all that they have done.
It's always projection.
This convention was one action of projection after the next.
On not just to Donald Trump, by the way. On to you. If you say, okay, you want to know what? Black Lives Matter. I want a change in the education system in the inner city. I want the unions broken up, or at least I want competition to be allowed. I want charter schools. I want private schools. I want vouchers. I want all that because it's going to help Black Americans. Black Lives Matter. I want that. The answer to that is no. That's what they'll say. No. Now, Black Lives Matter. There's more black babies that Joe and I point out all the time that are killed in the womb in New York City than are born in New York City. Black Lives Matter. I want abortion abolished in New York City because it's adversely affecting black people more than anybody else. How about those? Do Black Lives Matter then? Are you going to join me, Miss Bowser, Mayor Bowser?
Well, not in D.C.
To help?
If you chalk that on the sidewalk, you get arrested.
You got arrested, all right?
There were kids that did it.
Right.
Young kids.
Right.
Writing that in chalk.
Right.
Meanwhile, these people are painting. Many of them didn't have permits to do so.
So where is the systemic racism
Please.
coming from? In other words, Mayor Bowser, the systemic racism that you are projecting onto us, you and people like you in your party, not your race, your party, have perpetrated this on African Americans. You have imposed a systematic racist system on African Americans, and it's the real, authentic conservatives.
Speaking
specifically
to the school systems in the inner city,
Yeah,
that is systemic
most
racism.
blatant example of systemic racism, I just mentioned the both of them, and Joe and I say it all the time, education and abortion. More black babies are killed than are born. That is an assault on black people in America. Their lives matter too. So my point and Joe's point is, we agree with you, Mayor Bowser. You need to question your own political biases. You need to go against the teachers' unions. And the first thing you got to do is you have to allow competition against those unions. That's not going to happen. So she's full of crap. That's a long-winded way of saying Muriel Bowser is full of crap.
Well, speaking of which, speaking of full of crap, let's get a Michelle Obama talking point from this lovely convention. You
remember, you're really not, Joe. I'm just saying, and all you good people on the that are out there watching us on the front line with Joe and Joe on Facebook, on YouTube, please like, subscribe, share. You see the tone in my voice has gotten a little bit more muted because you can't. She's such a beautiful and wonderful person who has such a light within her. You can't say anything about Michelle Obama because if you do, guess what? You're a racist. Go ahead, Joe.
She talked about kids and what she believes they are witnessing in the world under the Trump presidency. This is what she had to say. She said, they see people calling the police on folks minding their own business because of the color of their skin. They see an entitlement that says only certain people belong here. She explained, urging people to vote for Biden like your lives depend upon it. Well, I agree with you on one point. Your life depends on it. And what I mean by that, your political life. Barack Obama lost a third of his power when Hillary Clinton basically was defeated by Donald Trump. If he defeats Biden, he loses another third. And I'll tell you what the death blow will be. It will be the final third is when A.G. Barr directly connects Barack Obama to the 2016 election tampering because he knew about it. And there is no doubt in my mind that if A.G. Barr is given 4 more years, he's a very competent man. He will discover that. And I'm not saying he's going to go to jail, but that will crush the Obama family political legacy, and he will be sent back to Martha's Vineyard.
Which is not a hardship for him, because he gets to live.
He robbed America left and right.
He gets to live his life in what did Bugs Bunny call it, the lap of luxury.
Oh,
all right. So he gets it, and so he's got all the luxuries. Okay, and he'll be able to live his life that way. Okay, but yes, something has to happen legally to Barack Obama and the rest of them, by the way. And the rest of them.
Well, don't think
Joe
that they're
Biden,
not sweating bullets.
No, listen. They are praying. I was about to say they're praying to God. Evidently, as Joe pointed out, they don't believe in God, right? Oh, no. John Kasich told us that Joe Biden is a man of faith. And we were told for 8 years that Barack Obama, the biggest baby killer to ever sit in the Oval Office, he's a man of he has deep faith. Okay. So now I forgot my friggin' point. But the thing is, they are, like you said, they are sweating bullets because Bill Barr, if you saw him, see, there was 2 stories real quick about the Attorney General Barr going up against, yes, in front of the House Judiciary Committee. There was the leftist shenanigans. Talk about a circus. That was a bigger circus than the DNC. Okay. The other story was watching Bill Barr and his composure. Watching Bill Barr, he threw a couple jabs, called Jerry Nadler, said, yeah, you got some real class there, Nadler, which I love, because that's something I would have said. Yeah, he wouldn't let him take a pee break, okay? And he goes, no break. He goes, yeah, you got a lot of class, Mr. Chairman. But my point is that watch Bill Barr. If you don't go now, all right, but on YouTube, watch some of the clips from that hearing, and you say to yourself, if I'm a Democrat, I really don't want to mess with this guy.
Well, he's the smartest guy in the room.
In that room? At least, listen, in most rooms, most rooms he walks into, he's the smartest guy. In that room, they're a bunch of yahoos, okay, with Einstein walking in the room, okay? He crushes them.
And frankly, I think the evidence is clear. And you know, what I find also interesting is this. When Trump said that in 2016, I can remember reading things on social media. People were like, he's crazy. He's just, no, he's not. And they're going to prove it. And when they do, Barack Obama's political legacy is finished.
Right.
It's decimated. It's already a third. And that's why his speech was an act of utter and absolute desperation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Michelle Obama said, like your life depends on it. It's their political life she's referring to.
Right.
It's not your life.
Again, going back to the black kids in the inner city with the Democrats in power and voting, you know, whose life is at stake? Theirs is. Because let's say you get some kid, you know, and he's about to go to high school and he's got a really good head on his shoulders, okay? And his mother has to turn around to him and say, I got to send you to, let's say using the city of Newark, I got to send you to Central. I got to send you to Barringer. I got to send you to West Side or Weequahic or one of these schools that are broken down, because that's what they are, broken down. And the kid asks his mother, Ma, how much does the state spend to send me to Barringer or those schools? Oh, about $25,000, honey. Well, why can't they just give you $14,000 so I can go to St. Benedict's or Seton Hall Prep? You know what I'm trying to say? In other words, who's enslaving whom? That's always been our question when it comes to them, particularly on education.
And that's systematic racism.
That's systematic racism. And that is a life and death matter. Because that kid who's got a head on his shoulders, and there's many of them in the city of Newark, all right, are going to go into those decrepit schools and not be educated properly. Send the same kid to St. Benedict's. We say it all the time, and we'll say it again. With a 100% graduation rate and a 99% rate of those graduates going to college, and good colleges, out of St. Benedict's Prep. And you know what St. Benedict's Prep costs the state if they were to give them vouchers? $10,000 less.
Half.
All right, or half than it would sending them to the decrepit public school. So Michelle Obama, if it's really about life and death, how about you worry about the life and death of that young black kid in the inner city in Newark and start supporting competition against your teacher union pals? Until then, shut up!
I want to make one more point regarding the convention. The DNC rejected the Me Too reckoning over Bill Clinton by giving him the convention speaking slot. In the move, this is evidence that, this is interesting actually, that Clinton's power in the party hasn't diminished to the degree many expected, which is itself evidence that pay attention, that the Democratic establishment's bluster about Me Too was more about political expediency than it was about women. Al Franken should be in revolt. Franken. Whatever his name is.
Al Franken. Hey, you know, it's like in the Constitution. I hate that guy. Lord forgive me. I hate what he says. I don't hate him.
But back in 2000, I want to refresh your memory. Back in 2017, during the frenzied days of the Me Too, the DNC chair, Tom Perez, called on Franken, faced with much less severe allegations than Clinton, to resign. This is what Perez had to say. He said, everyone must share the responsibility of building a culture of trust and respect for women in every industry and workplace, and that includes our party, he tweeted. Perez is still at the helm of the DNC, which I've been saying he should have been fired 4 years ago, which gave Clinton another stamp of approval, reaffirming the party's support for Bill and its willingness to prioritize politics over principle. This, to me, should speak to every single woman out there that this was utter and absolute bullcrap. It was posturing. Not only did Joe Biden get accused of sexual assault by Tara Reid, and it was completely and utterly blown over by the media, Bill Clinton is a serial adulterer and represents everything that feminists should despise.
An accused rapist. And we'll say accused. An accused rapist. Donald Trump hasn't been accused of anything anything that comes remotely close to Bill Clinton. But let's make a larger point, because Tony G's in the chat room, right? So Tony, this is the thing. They don't want you to know certain things. They keep everything, let's say, underneath. They don't think you're going to notice. This is one of the things that makes me really detest them as people. I don't like to have that emotion, let's say, especially as a Christian man. But this is where I detest them as people, not because they lie, because politicians lie. It's because they think you're so stupid. And the reason I'm bringing up Tony G, Tony says, and PP, Planned Parenthood, finally dropped Margaret Sanger from their website. Now, why do I reference that, Tony, in relationship to what Joe just said? Because people's eyes were opened. They understood now because of what guys like us are doing on here, on Facebook, on YouTube, and many people out there who have podcasts are saying, this woman's a racist. She's a eugenicist. That's why we have to keep saying it over and over again about what Joe just said about Bill Clinton. He is an accused rapist. He has done things to women that Donald Trump would never dream of, and they give him prime time slot at the DNC. And that's what I mean, Tony. They think you won't notice. That's why I referenced your statement about Planned Parenthood. They thought everybody wouldn't notice. But you want to know what? People did. People started to say, Planned Parenthood, wait a sec. Your founder was a real winner. Your founder was a stone cold racist and eugenicist. And the same thing with Bill Clinton. A lot of women are saying, you know what? I might not like Donald Trump. I could dig some of his policies. I might not like Donald Trump. But you're really going to put Bill Clinton up there?
Talking about character?
Talking about character? After what he did to women? After how they wrecked Monica Lewinsky's life? Remember what Donald Trump, and this pertains to Hillary, remember what Donald Trump, how he tied it in, which I thought was brilliant in his debates, even though at least she had enough guts to debate Donald Trump. They're trying to keep Biden, my wife calls
Barack
Biden, in hiding. Okay, at least she debated, but Trump said, this is what your husband did. And most people probably were thinking in their mind, well, he's running against Hillary. He's not running against Bill Clinton. And Trump just pivoted and said, and you treated those women viciously. You treated them viciously. He was pointing out the hypocrisy of the Me Too movement before there was a Me Too movement after what he did to Hillary. So that's what they do. That was
I was actually shocked that they invited Bill. But I'll be truthful with you because I think he's a poison.
But don't you think, Joe, that in other words, that's the thing that I'm trying to tell Tony is they think that, forget about us. We're doing this as part of what we do now. So we go through the news. We stay on top of these things. But the average person out there is having their eyes open. Would you agree?
Well, if you're not, to be honest with you, you're just woke beyond understanding, or you're just seething with unreal, basically, hatred beyond like basically sight. Because any objective person knows that Bill Clinton is a dog. And Bill Clinton is not pro-woman by his actions. It's by his actions.
But he's pro-abortion.
And Bill Clinton is also tied loosely to the Epstein situation, and more could come out on that. So, I mean, I was amazed that they actually put him up there. Honestly, I could understand his wife speaking. Right. But not Bill.
Joe, but remember something why we're here. We're here to point out that, you want to know what? Well, who did we mention last week? We said, where's Robbie Mook? Remember Robbie Mook? He's so smart. You watch CNBC or CNN or MSNBC. Robbie Mook. We have Robbie Mook on. He's running the Hillary Clinton campaign. Robbie, we're going to go to you. Turned out he was a disaster. He took an eminently electable candidate in Hillary Clinton, and he couldn't get her elected. This guy shouldn't have a job as dog catcher, okay? And it's the same thing. Robbie Mook's nowhere to be found because Robbie Mook blew something that should have been there. Let's face it, the Democrats should have won. Hillary should have won in 2016. And if it was anybody other than Trump, she would have, okay? But this guy didn't know how to pivot. And my point in bringing that up is the same. Now you have new Robbie Mooks, and they're making the calculation that you just said. Let's put Bill Clinton up there. He'll rally the feminist base. Well, guess what? No, see, this is where Trump just eats their lunch. Tony G said, I heard Tara will be at the RNC. If she is, that's a brilliant move. I think that's a brilliant move to have her speak at the RNC and say, Joe Biden attacked me in the hallway, in the Senate building, and this is what he did. And you want to know what? Let's see the feminist attacker. Because remember what you pointed out a few weeks ago, the New York Times, the writer from the New York Times. Yeah. I believe Tara Reid, but I'm voting for Joe Biden anyway. She's an ideologue. She's a radical feminist, the woman who wrote that. What about the woman who's let's say, leans
How about
Democrat.
this? How about this woman? How about Kamala Harris, who actually said she believed terrorism?
Right.
Is she going to vote for Donald Trump?
Right.
You see, this is where, I'll be honest with you, their platform, I say this objectively, I'm 50 years old. This is the worst American ticket for president in my lifetime. This is, I thought Hillary was a bad choice. I really did. I thought she was a horrible choice because she had so much baggage. She had a good resume, too much baggage. This platform, both what they stand for, how they're pretending they don't stand for it by basically wrapping Joe Biden in the wrapping paper, saying he's a moderate, and just the incompetency of Joe Biden himself. And Kamala Harris, who, by the way, she didn't even win her own state when she was in the primary. She was, I think, behind Sanders and Elizabeth Warren in California.
She's an unlikable person.
And when she did drop out, I think she only had 4% of the vote.
Yeah.
Of the Democratic vote.
Right.
This ticket is horrible.
Right.
It's horrible.
And they think they're going to be able to use all these tactics. We're going to talk. What are we talking about next? The post office.
Oh yeah.
So they're going to use all these tactics, okay? Because as we phrase it, and because I heard Michael Boris phrase it this way at Church Militant, because they're trying to drag. It's a good way of describing it. Drag Joe Biden across the finish line, because as Joe said, they have to drag because. You drag someone when they're on the ground, okay? That's when you drag someone, okay? And Kamala Harris, based on the numbers you just said in California, okay, and Joe Biden, because he's so cognitively malfunctioning up here, okay, they're on the ground. They're trying to drag them and drag them and drag them. And you know what? Here's going to come overweight, orange man bad, and he's just going to come trotting on the track. And he's just going to go, bye, guys. Bye. I love you. You're terrible, but I love you. And he's just going to keep going to the finish line. And you know what they're going to say on November 4th? You're all racist, all you American people. You're all, Donnie Deutsch said it last week, okay? He's on, I don't know if he's still on CNBC or where he was when he said, he goes, a third of the American people are racist. I swear, they think somebody needs to bring them back to Poli-Sci 101. Okay, and learn a little bit about politics. Maybe you should go read Machiavelli. There's more to Machiavelli than just, the ends justify the means. Maybe you'd understand what you don't want to do. You don't want to insult the people that you're asking to vote for you. And when they don't vote for you, it doesn't help you for the future to call them all racist. And I don't care that they do. You want to know why? Because they'll just continue to lose, especially to orange man bad. So you're at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello. We're way into the breach on Facebook, on YouTube, about across 10 other platforms. Please like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Tony G's dinner time with his girls. Tony, have a great dinner. Have a little chicken parmesan, my friend. All right, so where are we headed next? I think we're going to the post office, right?
The DNC's going postal, pardon the pun. The Democrats are attempting to create the false mailbox conspiracy. They're basically saying Donald Trump is deliberately crippling the U.S. Postal Service so that it can't handle the votes by mail in November, even forcing it to remove mailboxes. The truth is that mailboxes were removed because mailboxes are always being removed. At least 14,000 mailboxes were removed during the Obama-Biden administration. The Democrats are creating new hysteria to cast Trump as a tyrant and motivate their conspiracy to the American voters. Sadly, the truth is far more mundane than what they're trying to basically state.
This is what you call going over like a lead balloon, okay? They're floating it, and then what they find out is that, okay, this one's a lead balloon because it's lead. And what it does is it comes crashing to the ground because it's just a dud. So go ahead. Tell everybody why it's a dud.
I mean, the removal, this is the funny part. They basically make this claim, and then the Postmaster General basically halts, until the election. He basically says, I'm not doing jack. So guess what? I'm going to halt the removal of any mailbox from now until the election. And here's the funny part. I mean, this is a conspiracy theory like the others that the DNC has basically put out for the last 4 years that has just gone bust. basically, at least for normal people who are living in the real world, people are not that stupid. And frankly, they just passed something in Congress. It's going to go to the Senate. It's all posturing bullcrap. They passed a $25 billion package to basically support their vote by mail, i.e. cheat by mail theme. What is the problem? If you could protest, if you can go to Walmart, you can go and vote. And frankly, you may have to wait a little longer if you want to social distance everybody, spread them out, make the line a little longer, maybe only allow a certain amount of people inside the school gym. But it can be done.
And by the way, your employer by law has to let you have off on election day. So don't say you got to go to work.
So what is the problem? They're not making anybody go to work. I mean, preventing anybody to vote. You can vote. You just have to get up off your behind and get there. And frankly, we've covered it on past shows in Nevada and New York, and today we're going to cover it, what's going on in Patterson, New Jersey. There are issues with this.
Serious issues.
Because there isn't an infrastructure. And what they're trying to do, and that's why they want $25 billion, to build an infrastructure in 2.5 months. It is going to create confusion and havoc, and that's exactly what they want.
Right.
You see, that's what they want. Wait until the election. My guess, Joe, they're not going to accept it, or they're going to try to push it off.
Well,
that's my prediction.
I don't doubt it for a second. Again, what are we always talking about? Projection. We have to decide. We have to decide what we're going to do. Are we going to send in the National Guard if Donald Trump refuses to leave? If Donald Trump loses this election, you know what? He's going to go, see ya. Who's Joe? Come here. Let me tell you something. All right, let's sit in the Oval Office and we'll talk about the transition and our people who work with you people. And Donald Trump's going to go back to playing golf down here in Bedminster, New Jersey. Okay, Donald Trump's not going to refuse to leave. You people have refused to leave for 4 years. Hillary Clinton's been complaining that she won for 4 years. You've been saying that Donald Trump's not legitimate for 4 years. You're projecting this on him. Donald Trump's going to leave if he loses. It's that simple. But here's the thing. What they're also doing, this is a little bit more conspiratorial, but I don't care because we don't put anything past these people, do we? What they're looking to do is cheat. They're going to know that they cheated. They're going to know that the Republicans knew that they cheated, i.e. Donald Trump. And Trump's going to call for an investigation into certain states if he loses those states under shady circumstances. And that'll be their pretext for saying he doesn't want to leave the White House, where he'll be saying, you cheated, and we're going to wait to see what a judge says. Back like with Gore and Bush in 2000. We have to wait to see what the Supreme Court says. Okay? And the Supreme Court ruled, and Bush became president. Same thing with this. That's what they're trying to set up, that if Donald Trump questions the integrity of the election in any of these states, the swing states primarily, then that's going to be taken by them and their media allies to mean you're refusing to accept the legitimate result of a democratically held election. That's what they're going to say. But they've been doing it for 4 years.
It is such a disgrace, and it's such an insult to the American people. We have a right to have our voice heard, and you don't have a right to manipulate it. Listen, it is what it is, and that's why this convention, just getting back to that other subject, was a joke. It was all about, I hate Donald Trump. Where are your policies? What's your foreign policy position on China, which has been stealing our intellectual capital for years? What is your foreign policy issue in the Middle East? What is your economic plan for growth? What is your plan regarding our immigration issue? And it is an issue. It was an issue under Bush. It was an issue under Obama. And it's an issue under Trump. What is it? None of it was spoken about. Instead, you have woke activists talking about a revolution. Frankly, they don't even know what they want.
Right.
What they do want is to get rid of Donald Trump, and that's it. Maybe it'll make them feel better inside, but what's your plan? You see, this is where the normal people, and what I mean normal people who don't go to bed seething with hatred for Donald Trump, say to themselves as they watch TV across the country, what is your plan? I do not want to see a person who is identifying as a Z or whatever they want to call themselves basically talking about crazy nonsense. Nonsense.
Right.
That doesn't affect the average person in the slightest bit, nor do they identify with them. Now, I'm not saying that that person doesn't deserve respect, but what I'm saying is, why would you put that person front and center to talk to the American people who have to vote for you? It was a horrible platform. This ticket is the worst in American history, and frankly, it shouldn't get one vote, and I say that objectively. This is a horrendous ticket.
Right.
It is an abomination.
And just real quick, remember something, because everything they say Donald Trump does, remember Obama did. Whether it's immigration, okay? Barack Obama deported many more people than Donald Trump did. I forgot the exact figure. Many more people. Barack Obama was a terror at the border as far as deportations were concerned. So that whole canard that Donald Trump's deporting everybody, well, Obama did it too. So stop holding him up as a Lord and Savior. Tony's mentioning about the post office. They change out older boxes with stronger ones. And then the article I read today was there are boxes that are underused, which cost money, both in labor and fuel, because the mailman, can we call them mailmen, or is that politically incorrect? Probably incorrect. But the mailman goes and there's nothing in that box. So they remove boxes all the time. Now, like you said, in the interest of trying to calm the waters a little bit and kind of take their talking point away from them, the Postmaster General basically said, all right, we'll leave the boxes alone until after Election Day. But it's a normal practice. That's what they do. And that's what Tony's pointing out.
And then Pelosi drags the Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy, in front of Congress and basically gives him the third degree. And the funny part is he eviscerates them. He eviscerates them. This is basically what he said. He said, as we head into the election season, I want to assure this committee and the American public that the Postal Service is fully capable of delivering the nation's election mail securely and on time. Despite the fact that the left's accusations about the U.S. Postal Service and the election have been proven false or unfounded, many, this is hysterical, including Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Taylor Swift in the same sentence. This is the circus that I'm talking about.
That is a circus.
And members of Congress still latched onto the conspiracy theories as truth. The widespread hysteria of this issue led the House Speaker Pelosi to call an emergency congressional hearing to question DeJoy, who fell prey to the Democrats' accusations that the U.S. Postal Service and Trump are colluding to purposely remove mailboxes, slow mail delivery, and decommission mail sorting. And then he basically says, we will scour every plant every night leading up to the election. And he also said, I never spoke to the president about the Postal Service. This is a guy who's just trying to do his job.
But his sin is
a show.
But he gave to Republicans. He's a Republican.
But this is
so don't you understand his sin? Oh, he can't be objective. He gave to Republicans. They put people up there. Well, remember those four nitwit professors? You want to see the state of modern education in America? Go look at the hearings having to do with the Ukraine, and they put those 4 idiot professors up there. Okay, and the thing is, you put them up there, and I loved it. Matt Gaetz looked at every one and said, "Did you give to Barack Obama? Yeah, I think so. Did you give to Hillary Clinton? Yeah, I think so. So what? They gave to Democrats. The Postmaster General, who's allowed to be political, he's allowed to express himself politically by giving money to a candidate he likes. He gave thousands and thousands of dollars over the course of his career to Republicans. He's a Republican. What do you want? A liberal to serve in a Republican administration? You remember something. The only time a Republican ever does something good, as far as the left is concerned, is when they get a disgraziato Democrat to be in their administration. I would tell them, well, kick rocks. You're not in power. I'm not going to put a Democrat in a position to appease you when I ran as a Republican. I am a Republican, and I'm going to put Republicans in place. But that's his sin. The Postmaster General is a Republican. Ergo, he's a racist and he's trying to steal the election.
Well, let me break it down for you. Basically, Nancy Pelosi thought she had Donald Trump backed into a corner with the stimulus package, and she included $25 billion, which were going to go to the post office, which was going to enable them to have vote by mail. So what does Donald Trump do? He writes with his pen an executive order and gives everybody an extension on their unemployment. Nancy Pelosi looks like a dope. So what does she do? She goes into her little office and she scratches her head and she calls Tom Perez and they talk, and they probably had Barack Obama on the phone, and they all talked on a conference call, and they said, let's pretend that there is some type of collusion with the Postal Service, that Donald Trump is involved. So let's do this. Let's create a ruse. Let's try to convince the American people that Donald Trump is tampering with the post office. So she comes up with this, well, Tom Perez, her, and probably Obama come up with this concoction that they're going to bring the Postmaster General, drag him in front of Congress, and basically try to make him look like a dope. When, in fact, he made them look stupid. He made them look stupid. So then what's her next step? She basically passes in Congress a $25 billion package, which probably isn't going to pass the Senate. And even if it did pass the Senate, Donald Trump is going to reject it. And then what is she going to do? She's going to say it's a conspiracy theory. Donald Trump is behind it. He doesn't want you to vote. And the election is not legitimate.
And he doesn't want you to vote because he's Orange Man bad and he's a racist.
So this is exactly what's going on. And listen, I didn't go to Harvard, but I could see it as clear as day. It's a ruse. She's trying to create a smokescreen. She's trying to confuse the issue at hand. And the issue at hand is this: your platform stinks.
Say it right, Joe. Your platform sucks.
And your candidate is weak.
He sucks too.
And he can't win on his own 2 feet. So this is what you have to do.
Doesn't it strike you that they see that?
It's as obvious as the day is long.
What you see out there when it comes to real clear politics and all these polls and everything else, I'm not saying that some of them are not legitimate and done without biases, okay? But remember, what you see and what the operatives in the party see on the inside, the internal numbers, particularly in the battleground states, because that's where the fight is, okay? Why do you think they're doing all this? They're looking at the numbers and saying, oh, those stupid coal miners in Pennsylvania, they're going to vote for Trump. That's what they're saying. These young black kids in Philadelphia, they have 10% of them don't want to go and vote for Donald Trump. That's what they're saying. What are we doing about it? Let's create a conspiracy. Donald Trump's trying to steal the election by disenfranchising you because he's not allowing you to vote by mail, and he's got his lackey in the post office that's doing his bidding. They're seeing these numbers, Joe, and they're crapping in their pants. They know that I would guess this, and I could be obviously completely wrong. I have no crystal ball or anything like that. They're probably saying to themselves, we're going to get crushed. If we can't steal this election somehow, we're not only are we going to lose, we're going to lose the presidency, we're going to lose the House, and the Senate's going to expand and go more Republican. So, and look, it'll be a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the Democrats because they have gone so far to the left that they're losing a lot of people who say, you guys are, you can't even begin to call yourself mainstream or moderate anymore. You are completely in the tank for the left. Bernie Sanders, AOC, the squad, that's who's running this party. That's who's running this party.
Well, speaking of mail, we got to go to Patterson.
Now, this is a good example.
Okay, and this is the third example we've given on this show. Last week, as I said earlier, we spoke about Nevada and we spoke about New York. They are holding a new election in the city council race, which is marred by voter fraud charges. I'll give you a little background, then we'll have a little discussion. Both the race's apparent winner and a sitting councilman were charged with voter fraud. State Superior Court Judge Ernest Capicella has ruled that a new election will be held in November for a disputed Patterson City Council seat, just weeks after the race's apparent winner and sitting city councilman were charged with voter fraud. Alex Mendez had won a special election, this is basically what happened, on May 12th to fill the seat, but claims of voter fraud were soon raised. An investigation was then launched by the U.S. Postal Service law enforcement arm, who told the state attorney general's office about hundreds of mail-in ballots located in a mailbox in Patterson, along with more found in nearby Haledon. Ultimately, the Passaic County Board of Elections decided not to count 800 ballots cast in the race. Voter fraud charges were brought against Mendez, a Patterson Council Vice President, Michael Jackson, and 2 other men. And this is what Donald Trump has cited. This disputed race is a case study in what could happen in an election conducted mostly by mail. His re-election campaign is suing New Jersey, and I'm going to make you a bet that he wins, in a bid to stop the state's plan to conduct the November general election mostly by mail. And I'm going to tell you why he's going to win. Because Donald Trump is a businessman and he's smart. And what business people do is they have lawyers, and good ones. You see, Donald Trump has good, real lawyers. These aren't chicken and rice lawyers that are basically next to a bodega, that are basically handling a divorce for $400. These are serious sharks.
Right.
And what he probably does is he has a team of them, and he floats the idea behind it by them, and they think about it, and they talk about it, and they discuss it. And basically what they say is this: we will win this. Let's go to court. And when he says that to people, I'll see you in court. You ever notice this? He always wins.
Yeah.
Because that's what businesses do. When you work for a bank, when you work for an advertising company, they have in-house attorneys, and they're good attorneys. They're not clowns. These are people who went to serious schools, Duke Law School, Columbia Law School. They're smart as hell, and they know the law inside and out, and they're aggressive, and they have staff that does research and teams that work and analyze and break down facts. And he goes to them and basically says, this is our situation in New Jersey.
Right.
And what they say is, let's look at the law.
Right.
And then they say, we're winning. Take them to court. I'll make you a bet. You heard it here. Jersey has to back down. I'll make you the bet.
No, I don't doubt it for a second. And everybody who underestimates Donald Trump, and every time he opens his mouth, how can he say that? How can he make that statement? How come it's always true? He said in 2016 that the Barack Obama administration spied on his campaign. How can he say that? Now we know, we mentioned it earlier, Bill Barr is going to put people in orange jumpsuits, God willing.
John Brennan is next.
John Brennan.
That domino's about to fall.
Right. Sally Yates, Biden was in that room, Obama was in that room, Susan Rice was in that room. In other words, Donald Trump, when he said it, how can he say it? It's a conspiracy theory? Now it's all out in the open. It's the same with this. It's the same thing with this. Donald Trump saying, look, just happened in Patterson, New Jersey. How can he say that? Okay, well, good. I'm going to see you in court. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And like you said, he's going to win. Even New Jersey, even the people in New Jersey, as liberal as they are, they're starting to have it up to here, like we said in the beginning of the show. And we've covered it a few times over the last year in New Jersey, where people are saying, you people are all insane.
It was like the impeachment trial. Clowns. You get Alan Dershowitz. Just eviscerated them. That's all you have to listen to. He's a constitutional expert, Harvard professor, genius. He eviscerated them. It was like clowns.
Right.
It was like I was waiting for somebody to come out and start to juggle. It was so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
He eviscerated them. And this is exactly what he does.
And there's a lot more, by the way. There's a lot more evidence that they're going to be able to show. They're going to show what happened. In other words, when they make their case to the American people, not just in a New Jersey courtroom. We covered it in Las Vegas. Over 200,000 votes, right? That wound up getting tossed out.
Correct. 223,000 votes in Vegas were tossed. I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, it was 17%.
Right.
Of the vote.
That's potential fraud. And Donald Trump's going to be telling this to the American people over the heads of the media, which is why they hate him. That's why they keep saying, I wish he would stop tweeting. He's going to keep tweeting because he goes over your head, honey, over at CNN or Jim Acosta or at MSNBC. He goes over your head, and that's why they don't like the fact
and
that he tweets.
And that's why they want $25 billion, because what they have to prove in court is this, that you have the infrastructure. You see, that's going to be the lawyers, basically, their argument. You don't have the infrastructure. And guess what? Nancy Pelosi knows that.
Right.
And guess what? That's why she's asking for $25 billion in the stimulus package.
And she ain't going to get it.
And she's not going to get it. And that's why they're all bitching. And that's why you're seeing this three-ring circus with the Postmaster General. And that's why they're going to lose in New Jersey.
And we can't wait. And we can't wait.
Not necessarily the election, but this case.
This case.
Because they have to prove that they have the infrastructure to support an entire state voting by mail in a timely manner and in an ordered manner. And they're not going to be able to do it because they don't have the funds.
That's right.
The post office can't even function on a regular basis.
I never understood how the post office is still around, in other words, and how they have not done something, because the post office loses billions of dollars of our money every single year.
And the funny part about it was, because of this nonsense, he stopped all reform. He was hired to reform the post office, this postmaster general. So what he basically says is, I didn't do anything, and now that you're accusing me of it, I'm going to do nothing to help, which I was working to make this better until the election.
Right.
So you basically cut your nose off to spite your face, and now you're going to lose in court because you don't have the money to have the infrastructure.
Right.
And it comes down to that. So what does that say to me? Get off your ass, wait on the line, social distance on the line like you do in Walmart.
Show your ID.
Show your license and vote like an adult.
That's right, because that's the way we all have to do it. And I was thinking in my mind, what the Postmaster General basically said to the Congress is, my old Italian mother would say, hey, it's too bad. It's too bad. Barbara's joining us. Hey, Barbara from Wisconsin. Betty's with us. Betty says, God willing, Trump will win. Keep praying. Keep the faith. Yeah, we always say the same thing, Betty. Donald Trump is like he's obviously he's not a savior. Jesus Christ is. He's a wall. He's a wall that could stand between the radicals, the rabid left, those who will take away every freedom you have, particularly your religious freedom and your freedom of speech. And he's a wall between them and us. But if he gets elected, Betty, Joe and I have said on the show, we're going to keep repeating it. That's God giving us a 4-year reprieve. If we don't get up off our asses collectively and change the culture of this country, which will in turn change the politics, then we get what we deserve. That means that we have to open our mouths. We have to go out and vote. We have to support candidates. We have to go and protest. We have to rally. We have to boycott. Now, why do I use that word? Because I'm segueing into our next conversation.
And this is exactly what we need to do, as Joe said, and Donald Trump gets it, and we're going to illustrate it. After Goodyear bans Blue Lives Matter.
Goodyear, by the way, Goodyear. I think Goodyear, what do you think? I think NFL.
I think NASCAR.
I think blimps, NFL, I think NASCAR, I think America, I think apple pie. That's what I think of when I think of Goodyear.
You know what that is? It's exactly what's going on across all of the corporate spectrum. These people are woke, and they're not in touch with their customers. You see, these folks, because they don't eat, they don't live, they don't socialize with the people that buy their products, and they lose touch. That's what you're seeing in the NFL with Goodell. That's what you're seeing in the NBA. And frankly, they don't care. What they understand is what happened here. They understand when you take away their money, and then they come to their senses because they like their country club lifestyle.
Right.
They like their $4 million house and their $5 million vacation home. They like that lifestyle. They enjoy having their wife go on nice vacations and go to the spa and send their kids to Ivy League school and have nice cars. Meanwhile, they lose touch with the people who buy their products. And this is what happened. Donald Trump called for Goodyear tire boycott after the rubber company banned Blue Lives Matter. This is what he said. Don't buy Goodyear tires. They announced a ban on mega hats, Trump tweeted. Get better tires for far less. This is what the radical left Democrats do. Two can play that game, and we have to start playing it. You see, it's about leverage. We've been saying this, and we've covered this on the show on a number of occasions. You have to hit them in their pocket. Particularly, we talked about with the Sandman family regarding that March for Life issue, when they took CNN and the Washington Post to the cleaners, and there's a few more down the line. Linwood is going to basically eat their lunch, that lawyer. This is what you have to do. You have to basically hit them in the pocket. And guess what happened with Goodyear? They backed down. And I want to read you. I think this is also interesting. A couple people who had things to say about this. Earl Weber, he's from California. He's a black conservative in Congress. This is what he said. How the hell is this not considered some kind of discrimination? He's talking
Get that?
He's talking about Goodyear. This is Matt Walsh. He's one of our favorites on our show. This is what he had to say. Goodyear bans Blue Lives Matter and All Lives Matter messages while allowing BLM and LGBT messages. We need to get the hashtag boycott Goodyear trending. They need to overturn this discrimination against police and apologize for it. And apologize for their support of a violent Marxist organization. Now, this goes for Catholics. This goes for evangelicals. This goes for all people of goodwill. When you start having products, I'm going to use Starbucks, for instance. When, I think it was Howard Schultz, when he ran Starbucks, he said, if you are only for marriage between a man and a woman, I am not interested in your patronage. You know what our answer should be to Mr. Schultz? You're not going to get it. You get nothing from me. You see, this is how you do it. When Disney puts a basic transgender
Mickey Mouse or something character or whatever,
or something like that, which is basically proselytizing to our children, we turn it off.
Right.
We don't go to Disney World. We don't buy the Mickey Mouse shirt. They will get the message. You know why? Because their God is money. They have no principles.
Right.
They have no principles and they have no character.
I will say this about Howard Schultz. I will say this. At least he was man enough to say it. At least he was man enough to say.
That. But
knowing it was going to cost him business.
And I'm man enough to not give you any money.
Right.
That's how. And we understand each other. Yeah. Howard.
I used to get a double espresso at Starbucks. Then I got before all like he was even being more vocal. I felt at one point that they were an anti-Christian organization. Okay, not because Howard Schultz is a Jew, but just because
of what he said.
Because of what he said, and their messaging on their cups. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to stop going to Starbucks, even though I like their double espresso. I'm just going to get coffee at the old standby, which is, Dunkin' Donuts. Every time I come over to Joe's on Sunday nights, I stop at Dunkin' Donuts and I want to get myself a cup of coffee. I don't go to Starbucks anymore. So I got the feeling then, but at least I'll give him enough credit. He's one of those cultural warriors who runs a company, Starbucks, who said, if you don't agree with gay marriage, we don't want your business. Good.
I don't get it.
Now, it should be enough for conservative people, okay, to not go into Starbucks, to say, I'm not going into Starbucks. But Starbucks has kind of always had that kind of like air about them. This is Goodyear. This is Goodyear. That's so the thing is, and another thing too. Can I make a point?
Sure.
Would that be okay? Because we have to talk about very quickly, briefly, because we're coming up on the end of the show. We have to talk about conservatives. Okay, when they tell you boycotts don't work, laugh in their face, because this boycott worked. This threat of a boycott of Goodyear worked. Goodyear backed down because originally it was you can only wear Black Lives Matter and LGBT. You are prohibited from wearing Blue Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, or anything like that. Okay, they got the backlash. President Trump took our back, basically said boycott this company. And guess what? Sean Hannity, who's constantly saying boycotts don't work. No, they work. As Joe said, when you cost people money or threaten to cost them money, they will act. You will cause an action. What people like, again, this is a guess. I'm not putting this on Sean Hannity before everybody thinks I'm being unfair, okay? But my guess is that these guys worship the free market so much, they don't want to see any company's bottom line get hurt. Why would Sean Hannity be against a boycott of Goodyear? Or why would he try to convince people that boycotts don't work? We watched Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton threaten boycotts their entire careers and get companies to actually change their positions on things.
Gandhi did.
Right.
Gandhi boycotted salt. And he also boycotted linen that were basically manufactured in England, that were sold in India. That's why he was always spinning cotton. He got it. He financially strangled the British.
Right.
That's what you do.
And that's what we need to do in America.
You financially strangle them. You don't do it with your hands. You basically just nod and say, okay. Well, we could work this.
Right.
What do you think unions do?
Right.
Do you think union workers get paid by corporations because they like the people who basically build their buildings? They despise them.
Right.
But they have to pay them.
Right.
Because they won't be able to get a worker to bang in a nail.
Right. And they particularly hate unions, okay, because a union will say, we have a closed shop. You can't just hire whoever you want. Now, that's something that I never was completely for my whole life, but in the last few years, I've changed my position on that because of what I keep telling you and the audience here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. I don't like the actions of the corporations. I don't like the actions of the CEOs. I don't like the fact that every time it's about making money, the first target is labor. Well, no, you don't look at labor as an entry on the balance sheet. Those are human beings and you need to pay them. And I've changed my position. Yes, you could have by law a closed shop. You have to hire from our union. You have to pay our wages if you want to build that billion-dollar building. You know who's done that his whole career? Donald Trump. Okay, and it shows you as a business model, no, you can make a ton of money because you know who's made a ton of money? Donald Trump, by employing union labor. Now, they have set-asides for non-union labor, things like that, but the vast majority of the people that built his buildings are union laborers. So you can make a lot of money, become a billionaire, you could even become president of the United States, okay, while at the same time you've employed union labor. So let's just be, let's be clear about that, because it's one of those things. Like I said, free marketeers, they hate the word union, but like you said, when they look at each other, they don't like each other. If I looked at some of these CEOs, if I looked at the CEO of Goodyear, let's say Joe and I had influence, real influence, and we can influence people like Trump did, where we could say we're boycotting Goodyear, and we were in the office with the CEO. I don't have to like him, and he's certainly not going to like us. But you know what you got to do? You have to negotiate. You're going to have to talk.
It's about leverage, and leverage works.
Right.
You see, leverage works because, again, money talks and BS walks. And I'm going to tell you right now, if a CEO is hit in his bottom line and his dividend is affected, he loses his job. And he or she knows that. And at the end of the day, when you affect that bottom line, they will change. Because it's about the dividend. Mm-hmm. And that is their report card. And that is what we should be doing. What Donald Trump called for is spot on. And I say it should be across the board on many things, particularly those who believe in Jesus Christ, particularly our brothers who are evangelical and are Protestant. We are Catholics. And surely all people in the Catholic Church should be doing the same thing. When you get people like Tom Perez in the DNC who basically says, if you are pro-life, you are not welcome in this party. That's his words.
Right.
Why would you support him with your vote? Why would you contribute a single cent when he's insulting you? He is.
Right.
That is how it's done. And that is how you move the lever. Goodyear moved. You know why? Because it affected their bottom line, and that is how we do it.
Right. That's a very good example of how we should move forward in this country when these corporations, because our battle is not just against the government and the radicals. Corporate America, that used to be, generally speaking, characterized as conservative, has now gone in the tank with the left. They've embraced everything radical, while at the same time, the majority of their money comes from people who don't agree with this agenda, whether it's LGBT, whether it's Marxist organizations like Black Lives Matter. They don't agree, yet they keep taking our money. And why do they take our money? Because we give it to them. As Joe is saying, as Donald Trump proved, threaten not to give it to them. And not only threaten, don't give it to them. Get rid of Netflix. Get rid of HBO. Can I tell a very quick story in parting? Good friends of ours, they have a traveling statue of Our Lady of Fatima, all right? So we have that statue in our place now for the next couple of weeks, okay? And it's a good reminder. I take it as a good reminder. In other words, where Orly and I, my wife, in other words, our attitude is, we pray our rosary and we have our protection of Our Lady. That while we have the statue in our house, you know what? And it's a good reminder for when the statue's not there in the future. Don't bring things into your home that would, let's say, insult the Holy Family. You know what I'm trying to say? In other words,
home is domestic church.
Right. So so what does that mean? What am I trying to say? Don't watch terrible things on TV. In other words, don't bring that stuff into your home. In other words, don't let's say play a lot of the crap that's out there, let's say on YouTube and stuff like that. So I bring it up to say it's a good reminder. Your home is your domestic church. Your home should be as pure can be. Don't let this filth that comes from Hollywood. Don't let these products that come from these corporations who are so damn woke come into your home. Just do without them or find a competitor. Trump didn't say don't buy tires. He said, I can find you a place where you can get the tires cheaper. And that's who we should do business with. We should go out of our way to be conscientious of these things. That will help us, and Joe, in my opinion, help us tremendously in the culture war. Would you agree?
I would agree.
So let's start costing them some money. It's always wonderful talking to all of you wonderful people on Facebook and YouTube, across Holy Faith Media, all the fans of Holy Faith Media, Arana Nation. We can't see all your comments because of our software. We see some. So we know you're commenting out there. Know that we love you. Know that we're trying to talk the way you talk and address the issues that you want us to address. We thank you so much for your support. Please remember, particularly on Facebook, the Frontline with Joe and Joe, like our page, follow us, share our page and our videos with your friends. We have 2 new interviews. We have one with John Horvat talking about bailouts and cheap money. We have that on Facebook, and one with Ernie Nuzzo regarding Christopher Columbus and setting the record straight on Columbus. So that's on Facebook, and it's on our page on YouTube, the Frontline with Joe and Joe. And on YouTube, please subscribe to our page, tell your friends about us, and hit that little bell so that you're notified when we produce any content. And remember to visit the Crusade channel. That's where Joe and I are on Mondays, and we have a weekly show. We do a 3-hour show, and on the Crusade channel, you could do a free 30-day trial subscription. Mike Church runs a great channel down there. It is subscriber based, but you could do 30 days free. Joe and I gain nothing from that. We encourage people to go on the Crusade channel because it's an excellent, excellent radio show. Both Mike Church, Rick Barrett, Aaron Barker, Joe and I are there. Like I said, once a week. So it would be worth your time because they're all culture warriors down there also. So having said all that, we thank you again. And remember that our conversation is your conversation. And that conversation, it's going on everywhere. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening.